What's up, guys? Money Mammal Swine here, and today I have a GBA Season 6, Week 8 Pick'em Crew video. I am not alone. I am not with Maddie, I'm actually with a familiar face.
Guys, you didn't think you'd lose me that quick, did you? Really? What's up? What's up?
So, I don't know who this is. Who are you?
I don't know. I think Hank. Hank, is that the name? Hank the Pidgey?
Hank the unsuccessful GBA Season 4 coach.
That's it. That's
Okay.
my dig.
So, yeah, Maddie is actually traveling in Europe right now, and I needed a co-host. So, I figured one of my good friends, Hank the Pidgey, would be able to handle this pretty well.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. We'll see how it goes.
All right, looking at the picks for last week, it was an up and down week for some. Pretty up for me, pretty down for some others.
Yeah. Looking at shout out to Dallas Staryu. First,
Yeah, that's-
0-8. Not bad.
That's impressive.
Not bad. I mean, I don't think that's happened in the history of Pick'em Crew, if I'm not mistaken.
I really don't think it is.
So that just shows how ridiculous this season has been. Like, and you can't even knock that because there's so many matches that you really can flip a coin to make a pick, honestly. So that just shows. I mean, even looking at the records of the analysts compared to last season, like you can easily tell how difficult it is to pick this season. So I mean, no shade being thrown there. That's just kind of neat that this is the first time we see a 0-8 pick for a whole week there.
Yeah, I actually ended up losing my lock of the week undefeatedness.
Yeah, that was another big one.
Yeah, Miguel kind of let me down, but
and
that kind of
again,
stuff
like
happens.
that's something. Had you predicted, like it shows how much Tup has improved because I mean, especially like let's go back to when Tup was a rookie in the season that I was in. I mean, no one in a million years would have predicted that a couple seasons down the road, Tup would beat Miguel, who is well regarded to be one of the best battlers in the format, and still one of the stronger battlers in the league. But it just shows you, even the players that weren't considered as as strong in the past have really stepped up their game, and of course we got a lot of new coaches who are really bringing heat as well. So yeah, it's pretty nuts.
Yeah, it's a really fun season to not only watch but be a part of behind the scenes. It's a lot of fun to pick the matches, and the fans, they didn't have the worst week. You guys picked fairly well. Your lock was good this week.
Yeah, I mean whenever you're picking Envy as your lock, you're usually good. You're usually good.
And I think this was the first week that they didn't pick Dan to win the match.
Oh yeah,
which was
that is surprising. That is
definitely
quite
wrong on
surprising.
their part.
And yeah, that's funny. The week he does win, they don't pick him. So yeah, it just shows you again how difficult these matches are to call.
All right, moving into the matches for this week, we have the first match: the San Jose Sharpedos, coached by Tom, and the Utah Jasmine, coached by Cooper. Cooper's been playing pretty well recently, and I don't think he's really gotten the love he deserves. Tom has not been playing all too well. Hasn't really been able to capitalize off of his win from a few weeks back. He's struggling, but he's still not just a kind of like a pushover coach. Like, he's still a coach that's really tough to beat. But I kind of think Cooper's got this one. He just really good team, really good sets, quick attacks the Raptor. Something I don't really think about very often, but definitely a move that he used, and he used it well last week.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, I personally hold a lot of weight in momentum. I think it is a really big thing. When you're going into a match and you don't have a lot of pressure because you have a couple wins the previous weeks. And I'm speaking from experience as someone who's been in a slump, kind of like Tom. It's really hard to dig yourself out of that rut. It really is. It's kind of this thing where the better you do, the more effort you want to put into planning because you want to keep that streak alive, and then kind of once like it's broken or once you're going in the other direction, you kind of can get that like, oh, what's the point kind of thing, right? And I think Tom is a little bit checked out of the season too. I still, if I'm not mistaken, I still don't think he's uploaded for this week. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think I saw. So, I mean, it's it's hard once you're in a rut like that. And Cooper, yeah, Cooper's got some really good wins under his belt. He's another one who he beat Miguel, albeit in kind of a unique way. He did, and yeah, I don't see any reason why Cooper won't take this one. So I mean, you have a couple analysts who are putting their money on Tom, but I just don't see it going that way personally.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to make the contrarian pick, try and gain some advantage up in the overall record so
For
far.
sure, yeah. If you can get one of those, picks that no one else wants to stick their neck out for, and you get it. I mean, it's risk reward, and yeah, couple wanna take that risk.
It's pretty much a two match swing if you really think about it. So
Yeah,
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 getting those matches correct are very important. But when you put your neck out like that, as he said, like some bad things could also happen.
for sure, for sure.
In the next match, we have the Newcastle United versus the Tampa Bay Lux Rays. And Monatoui lost last week. Really kind of stopped the train he was really pushing. But nobody seems to think that Sam is going to be able to win this one.
I
And
mean,
Sam's a good coach. And
I mean, it's the same thing with Sam. Sam is a great player, but he hasn't really gotten into his groove this season. I mean, he got that the one win against Gio, and he lost again last week. And again, it's hard once you're already kind of you don't think you're not really a playoff team, and it's this late into the season. It's kind of you don't really have that you don't have that killer instinct to really push for the win. And I mean, I think Monatoui is one of those coaches that I believe he's on the cusp of playoffs. I don't know if he has a playoff spot, close to being locked. I think he's pretty close, but I think he's going to definitely have to put a lot more effort into ensure he stays there. So I see it going his way again. I mean, and he's a fairly consistent player just from seeing him play these, the weeks he's played so far. And again, I don't see any reason for him to. I mean, he had a loss last week, but I'm confident he'll be able to pick that back up and grab a win this week. So
yeah, and there's really two ways you could take this if you're Sam or you're a fan of Sam. You kind of lost your drive. That's the first way. It's hard to be able to go and get wins after you don't really have an incentive to really go out and get more wins. The other is, look, this is not who I am. I'm a better coach than this. I'm a better battler than this, and I want to prove people wrong. And what better way to do that than beat someone who everyone thinks is going to win this week, who everyone thinks is a great coach? And that's definitely one way to turn the table around, just for next season.
yeah, absolutely.
So,
And I don't know, like I said to Sam, I mean, everyone knows Sam is a great battler. I mean, he won season 1 of the D League, so we know he's a good player, a good coach. He just, I don't know if it's maybe the team just isn't his style. I can't even look at something he's been doing week after week and point to and say, this is what Sam is doing wrong. Because I think it's just this is the level of competition. I don't think he's making, it's not like he's making the same mistake after the same mistake. It's just he's just getting beaten. That's all it comes down to. So, I mean, does he have the capability of winning this? Absolutely, but I would definitely put my money on Monatoui to take this one.
yeah, and that's what everyone really did this week, including the fans who actually made it their lock of the week.
Yeah, and interesting again to see, not Dan being the lock or being, one of the most, popular picks to win. So it's, I guess I don't know if this speaks to, the fans' confidence in Monatoui or their lack of confidence in Sam at this time. Probably a little bit of both, but interesting.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about momentum and going into a match where both coaches are really trending downwards. The San Francisco Giants and the New Orleans Pelicans, both coming off some pretty big losses to some really good coaches. We're just going to see one of them's going to get a win, one of them's really going to bounce back and kind of keep the playoff hope alive. And if the other one that loses is kind of kind of grasping at straws for the final
Yeah,
weeks
it's
to try and get the
interesting.
win.
I always find myself most of the time I'm the one pulling for the underdog. I like to see the one someone come from the bottom and take the win from someone who you expect to win. I find that exciting. But in a match like this, it hurts because they're both kind of underdogs in their own way, and this is to me the hardest match to call this week. They're both great players. Both started off the season fairly well. I mean, especially Gio. Gio came in really hot, and he's just been sliding the past few weeks. And as for John, I think he's just been, he had a not too bad the first couple weeks, and then he just started getting kind of shaky. And I don't know. This is a hard one to pick. If I had to pick, I think I would personally put my money on John. I think he has the slight team matchup. Maybe. I mean, it depends. It's hard. It depends on which six they're going to go with. I know Ditto. If he can get Ditto out on Megalop with a scarf, that is going to be horrifying. So,
yeah, and Geo also has one of the best Landorus T counters in another Landorus T in Ditto.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I can see this going either way. More analysts, though, are definitely, trending towards Geo for this one.
Yeah, I think throughout the season, Geo has just really shown more to the analysts as, like, why he should be picked. But, like, you can't just look at the scores and assume John played badly, because John was playing really well. That's one of the best I've seen John play in a long time. He just got beat. Like, it's hard to stop Gorbis. It's a really tough thing. Like, he brought some great sets, and
it's one of those things. Like, no one goes into a game expecting to get swept by a Shell Smash Gorbis. Like, yes, it has that, but I mean, even with Shell Smash, it's not the fastest mon in the world. It's it's not super powerful. Yes, it's strong. I'm not saying that, but it's definitely you don't look at MB's team and say, oh, Gorbis is what's gonna be my downfall. And
if you look at the team, like, or what the Gorbis set it was Protect, Shell Smash, Surf, right, and Signal Beam. And at that point, you saw Protect, and I think you saw Shell Smash, and you don't really expect that to be a sweeping Gorbis. You expect it more to be a passing Gorbis.
For sure. Having Protect on there definitely kind of fakes you out in that, makes you think that, it's gonna pass, and that's not what happened. And up until that point, I think it was a great game, and John was really holding his own. So that's...
Yeah, I think John was on the driver's seat for that.
And I think
part
that's
of the
reason why I'm giving the edge to John here is I find Geo just... If this was the first couple weeks, I would be giving this to Gio because he had so much momentum. But now he's trending down faster than I find John is. He's on a streak. He hasn't, his last win, he was undefeated, and now he's just consistently lost since then. And he's been losing against coaches they're great coaches, don't get me wrong, but they're the bottom of the league at this point. He gave Sam his first win. He gave Steve his first win, and those are hard losses for me to look at and say, okay, now I'm confident he's going to be able to beat John. But that said, this is the hardest match to call in my opinion. I could definitely see it going either way, but I would personally think John will take this one. I think.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear what the fans think. Puppies. I definitely want to hear what the fans think in the comment section. We think it's the toughest match to call, so definitely going to be interesting to see what you guys have to say in the comments. What the heck, man?
Well, we know what the puppy thinks.
Okay. Yeah, we know what the puppy thinks. Definitely. Moving on to the next match, we have the Atlanta Haluchas and Fizz and the San Francisco Arcaniners and Septile MC or George. I decided to go with George this week because he messaged me on Skype. It's like, hey, happy birthday. So I'm like, hey, Fizz didn't do that. George did. Great guy. George is the one. George is the pick for me.
Can't argue with that.
It's honestly the
Yeah,
best reasoning I could have.
I think I had Fizz pen as my pick, but I think I'm gonna have to switch now because
Yeah, George sent me happy birthday, BB, and then four hearts.
four heart. Okay, this will be my lock. In fact, the 4 hearts seal it up for me.
Yeah.
No, this match though is actually, I know I just said the last match was the hardest to call. This one is also extremely hard to call, and it's for a different reason. The last match was 2 good coaches that are kind of slipping. These are 2 coaches that have huge amounts of momentum. They both, if I'm not mistaken, both have only 1 loss. They're 2.
I think
George has 2 losses. Is
now.
that
the infamous
right? Yes,
pressure.
last week. Right. Okay, so they're 2 of the coaches that still have the best records, and 2 of the best records, and it's just going to be, this is going to be one of the most competitive matches I think this week. Really lots of trouble calling this one.
Definitely. One of the reasons I'm picking George this week is I know how much George likes to play with a chip on his shoulder, and coming after the loss last week, kind of how embarrassing it was. Like, it was a lot of luck based involved in it, and how he didn't capitalize on some free opportunities that he had. I think he's going to be really hungry for the win, and that's for me. One of the biggest factors is the things that you can't really look at and you can't really measure. And I think like how much you really want it, and I think George really wants it.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I mean, after a loss last week, I think that's really gonna motivate him to come at Fizz hard. But I know people respect Fizz, but I still don't know if Fizz gets the recognition he deserves. I really do think he is a top, probably top 2 coach in the GBA, and he has been for a while. I mean, season after season he's been doing really well, and but then again so is George. So I mean, a lot of the things I'm saying about Fizz also apply to George. So yeah, this is going to be a really hard one to call. Even team matchup wise, I don't know who I would pick. I think they both have a great shot at this one. I feel like I'm saying that for every match, but that's because it's like that for every match. Every single match, it seems like it's like, gonna go either way.
And this one is like genuinely believable. This is probably one of the toughest matches to call this week. Another thing, George typically doesn't show up in like the biggest of games. Usually he either loses by a narrow margin or he doesn't usually come out on top in the big games, but I think that's something that he's really trying to reverse this season, and I think he'll be able to successfully do it this week. In terms of Fizz being like not getting the respect he really deserves, if you look at the team, it doesn't look like the best team on paper when you look at it. But if you sat down and tried to plan for that team, you would realize how tough it actually is to stop and to beat. And then also his commentary doesn't come off as super professional, and even though it's glorious commentary, probably the best commentary in the GBA, definitely my favorite matches to watch, but he doesn't come off as like very knowledgeable like some of the other coaches do.
I think that's absolutely true. Once what you mentioned about the commentary, I think that's a big factor actually. He doesn't, and by doing that, it's entertaining, but he's also not showing his hand all the time. I mean, I know
he's not really showing what he's thinking.
Show his thought process,
move
right?
Move.
So, and I mean, he has some of the best nicknames in the history of the GBA as well. I just gotta point that out. There was the famous "Nah" from last season, and then we've got "Yow."
Oh yeah.
So I think the nicknames also gotta push it over the edge for me. So I'm gonna go with Fizz.
Yeah, definitely a tough one to call, and we really want to hear what you have to say about that one in the comment section. Moving on to the next match, we have the Bura Shadon fan and the Real Maril, coached by Lars and coached by Miguel, respectively. Miguel lost last week. That means he won't lose this week. That's what I think. That's how Miguel works, and Miguel's not going to lose.
I think that's a fair assessment. For me, I would also put my money on Miguel. However, for me, this is really going to be judgment week for Miguel. If he drops this one, I think he's really going to struggle through the rest of the season. I really do. This is the first time we've seen Miguel with a losing record, and he's only losing. His losing record is only by one game. But if it goes down by two, I think he's really going to have to, you know, change things up. And I mean, even at the end of his match against Tup, he was really down on himself. And I definitely understand. I get, you know, losing, especially when it's a really close match like that, and it sucks. But this is really going to be a week where he needs to show that he can, you know, dust himself off, get back up, and he needs to get a win this week. If he doesn't, I'm not confident. Like, I'm not confident in the rest of his season.
Yeah, and one of the Pokemon that kind of has a pretty good matchup this week is actually Talonflame. One of the few Pokemon that could actually outpace the Mega Alakazam that Lars has, and really threaten Pokemon like the Scizor and other things that Lars has that a lot of other teams really struggle
Absolutely.
to deal with.
And on top of that, like, we've seen Miguel use Talonflame really effectively this season. You know, it's been his win condition in a few weeks, and I think when he picked Talonflame, I'm personally not a huge. I don't think Talonflame is great in the format. That's my opinion. Miguel has used it pretty effectively though, and Miguel's obviously a really good player. So yeah, I think having Talonflame being a key piece of his team this week helps him, because I think he's quite effective with Talonflame. So yeah, I think Miguel will be able to do it, but I could definitely see Lars taking it. I wouldn't be shocked. So we'll see how it goes.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see how Miguel really handles all the outside noise of the UCL, as he was just announced to be in that.
Yeah, that's
planning for the
true.
draft and
That's
planning
true.
for the
And
matches.
I mean, yeah, that, and you know, the comment sections and whatnot. Like I said, this is the first time that Miguel has really, you know, been an underdog, even to maybe not in this match necessarily, but at this point in time, I don't think he's looking. You know, I could very well see him missing playoffs this season, even if it's just by, you know, a game, which would be really unfortunate. It just shows, like, this is a past. I mean, Miguel's been in. He's at least made it to the playoffs of every season he's played in so far. So to see him, you know, this season, it just shows you how difficult this is. So.
And Miguel's one of those people that if you beat him, like, you're really happy afterwards, just because of his track record, and you feel like you just kind of slayed
Absolutely.
this.
And I mean, on the other side of the coin too, Lars had a shaky start to the season as well, but you know, he ended MB's undefeated streak, so that was a big win there, and he definitely has the capabilities to win as well. So I don't want to make it sound like, you know, Lars has no chance, because he absolutely does, and I think it's going to be a nail biter, this one.
Yep. Moving on to the next match, we have the Boston Red Sox versus the Milwaukee Sawsbucks. And Battler X, what happened last week?
I don't know. I would suggest not risking a Mon just to determine if something is a Zoroark or not. Usually not a wise move. So I don't know.
I'm sure Steve is really hating himself for that one, but Battler X is firm in his beliefs.
This is probably one of the easier matches to call. I think you can see which way momentum is heading for both coaches here. I see Nick taking this one. Although, who knows, Battler X could come out and get a surprise win. He did so with Geo, but you know, it's just I don't see it happening. I'm not a huge fan of Battler X's team. As someone who used Mega Pinsir, I find he just does not have enough support for Mega Pinsir. He doesn't have enough hazard removal and whatnot, and it really cripples it. He's been using Heatran fairly effectively. I know he likes Heatran, and he does use Heatran quite well, but I don't think he's going to be able to get the W here over Nick.
Yeah, and Nick definitely has a lot of controversy surrounding him with the infamous acupressure Drapion set, which was, I mean, you gotta hand it to the guy. Like, that's a really clever set to come up with. Yes, it involves a lot of luck, but statistically, he wasn't all that lucky throughout the match.
And I mean, I kind of see, like, you can kind of see similar playstyles with Nick and Cooper. I would say Cooper can definitely be a little more out there with his sets, and Nick is maybe a little more consistent, but they definitely both have that, a bit of the old school style of play with, doing stuff like the acupressure and swagger and those kind of things, right? That they'll do what it takes to win, regardless of what the fans may think of it. And but along with that, Nick has an extremely consistent track record as well in previous seasons, so makes him really dangerous.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe Cooper actually taught Nick how to battle back and forth.
That's true. Yeah. So,
or it could be the other way around. Not really sure.
So I mean, I can definitely see parallels between those two. And Nick, like I said, Nick has the track record, and Steve, Battler X. I mean, if you're going by Battler X's track record this season, he doesn't have the track record. If you're going by Steve's track record, he doesn't have it either. It's not to say he can't take this one and surprise us all, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to have a big FU, so I really hope Nick.
You know what? I wouldn't mind a big FU. I wouldn't.
Really?
I wouldn't. It would. I'm just gonna throw this out there. I mean, the last time, me and Steve had some interaction. The very the very mega he's using, kind of slaughtered his whole team. So I don't know. He's facing a Mega Venusaur. Maybe he can make Mega Pinsir work this week, but he hasn't done it thus far. So we'll see.
Why don't you just stop being a jerk and actually help him out with that?
Hey,
then?
I'm not saying I made Mega Pinsir work either. I mean, it worked on Steve. I wish it worked on everyone else that season, but it sure didn't. So maybe I'm not one to talk, but we'll see. We'll see.
I don't know what you're talking about. That thing led the league in kills that season.
Barely. That was Weewile's season. Yeah,
20-something kills. Doesn't mean anything.
All right.
Moving on to the next match, we have the New York Metapods versus the Philadelphia Scissors. And Chimpact definitely played very well last week, and Dan did too. They both ended up getting 4-0s.
Yeah, it was good to see Dan, get a W. Another player who has a great track record, and he's just struggling a little bit this season. Not a lot, but he's definitely in a very similar boat as Miguel here. He if he's gonna make a run for the playoffs here, he needs to start getting a streak going here. And this we're getting to the home stretch of the season, so he needs to start pulling out some wins. And Chimpact is going to be a hard coach to get that win against. He's another, he's a very meticulous player. He's very good at all the little turns, switching, like when he played against Sam and he was switching in to get the lefties recovery and stuff like that. Like, he's very good at those, getting that chip damage, and then by the time you know it, all your mons are worn down, and he just runs through the rest of your team. So I would have to give this to Chimpact, I think, this one, albeit by a hair. I just think he's had a more consistent season again, and I don't see anything that Dan can do that is gonna stop that, really.
Oh, one of the main reasons I picked Dan was because I kind of need to improve on my differential between other coaches. So this should be a pretty good way to help me out in that. And I don't think Dan has the worst matchup. But if you look at the matchup in terms of the speed, which is probably one of the easiest things to overcome, Chimpact just destroys Dan's team in terms of speed. Just Tornadus, Scolipede, Mega Dancy, Scarf Magneton, Scarf Politoed, Kingdra and Rain. It really just wrecks a lot of Dan's team. So Dan's going to have to get pretty clever in terms of coming up with ways to outspeed Chimpact, and I think Dan is probably the busiest coach in the entire league right now.
Absolutely, yeah.
Not
I
only
definitely would agree with you there. You can see some parallels between Dan and how shady was. Similar thing, right? They definitely are. They're doing things kind of. They have the full-time thing going on. They have lots of stuff going on. But I do think Dan has the potential there. It's just going to depend on the planning and I mean, as far as the matchup goes too, I know Chimpact has been using Steelix of all things very effectively, and Steelix in the rain can really stop a Mega Altaria quite easily, which is interesting too, because there's not a lot that can stop that thing once it gets up to +1 or whatever. But Steelix is one of those mons that could do that potentially. So yeah.
Yeah, and Dan has I think he's getting married in a week. He's buying a house, and he's in like 4 leagues.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, life gets in the way, but we'll see. I can see it going either way, but again, money on Chimp here.
Yeah. Moving on to the next match, we have the San Diego Chim Chargers versus the Pittsburgh Pirate Tatas.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned at this point, you pretty much have to pick MB every single week. Let's be honest. Yeah, you have to. If you don't, you are likely going to be wrong. And although Tup has improved immensely, I don't see him taking this match.
Yeah, definitely. Chimpact is one of those coaches where the only thing he's shown is good things. And he's really hard to pick against, as you said. And Tup is trending upward. Definitely one of those coaches who's really made a big improvement. I think since he's been in the league, the only thing he's done is really improve. So,
yeah, I would definitely agree. I'll be honest. There's probably no one in the league that I would pick against Envy. Maybe Fizz, depending on what the matches like leading up to that match were like. But other than that, like I'm picking Envy every time until someone proves otherwise that shouldn't be the case. So the way I see it is Tup is just this week's victim, and I know that's a brutal way to say it, but that's what I think it comes down to with Envy.
Yeah, and I definitely would have a hard time disagreeing with you. So would everyone else. So were the 3 pickers that made MV his lock of the week.
Yeah,
and there's nothing against Tup. Like, you're just kind of in the way of a boulder. Are you gonna get run over? Or are you gonna get out of the way?
Yeah,
like,
and I mean it's a stoppable boulder. I mean we saw it with Lars. So can Tup do the same? I'm doubting it, but it's possible. So
you never really know what can happen.
Yeah, who knows? So we will see.
So yeah, that wraps up the Pick'em Crew video for this week. Thank you for joining me, Hank. Real pleasure. Hank's a very, very busy person. That's why he's not in the league anymore. I just bought a house or something.
Yeah. So getting all settled in and all that stuff there. So yeah, it's good to stop by. Still watch all the matches and stuff, and still love me some GBA. So thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it, and yeah, we'll have to do this again sometime down the road.
Definitely. So with all that being said, we will see you guys next time. See ya.
Later.